Let's take a moment of silence, please. Amen.
Thank you, sir. What item we have to vote on is approval of the minutes.
Move for approval.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All objections, ayes have it. All right, so we last met on November the 14th. Got over. We wanted update on.
Sorry, can we please use the mic? Thank you.
Thanks for reminding me. We last met on November the 14th. And at that point, we had a presentation from the Charleston Police Department on two items. One was a community survey report. And we also got an update on the audit, the internal audit, to see where we were in compliance with the in audit. Is about like a better way of saying that. And we had several presenters to go over the results of that internal audit. And Chief Walker, you're here with your team again, I see. And the idea was that to see what we're going to do with this final assessment, the implementation of those recommendations. Chief, do you just want to lead us off with a brief update on that, or? And you can sit at one of the decks and mayor if you want to just do that, and whatever you want to do. And the team, you all want to sit up here with us? Come on up here. And,
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to introduce Dr. Jill Edson. She's our procedural justice director and pretty much lead on the ERA and implementation. She'll give a brief update, and then we'll take any questions that any members have and go from there.
okay. All right, Dr. Jill.
Okay, good afternoon. It's good to see you all again. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We've done this before, but I think it bears repeating. The CPD would like to start out by thanking the members of the ERA team, the mayor, city council, CPAC, and also all of the participants in the community and at the CPD that helped get this comprehensive amount of work accomplished. And so in the interim, since we last met, the CPD has made a short version of the report available on its website. So as you can see, it's quite a substantial document. So as opposed to reading the entirety of the over 200-page full report, the short version is 14 pages long, and it includes information about the project's scope and methods, the key findings, highlights from the quantitative portion, which was the racial disparity analysis, the report conclusions and recommendations. And if anyone here or in the public is interested in accessing that brief report, that 14-page report, it can be located on the CPD's website. It's in the transparency tab to the left as soon as you get to the website first page. And then if you go to the transparency section, there's another section on the left-hand tab called racial bias audit. And that's where it can be located for people who are short on time, but still want the highlights that are very important in the report. So following up on the release of the report, the ERA team with CPD support is planning to share the results with the larger community in January at an upcoming in-person meeting. And the details, the dates, times, and locations are still being finalized. But as the CPD is assisting in the facilitation of this event, we're going to make sure that further information is provided to the public. Also, we're going to make sure that our partnering community councils and groups, including the Citizens Police Advisory Council and members of HARC, the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, receive the information in hopes that they will help us promote the event and make sure that the public at large is informed and aware of the meeting, time, place, and that they will come and participate and react to the report so we can get their feedback as well. The CPD currently is still assessing the comprehensive report and wants to make sure that it receives the time and attention that it deserves. And that includes a careful review of its over 30 recommendations. So the leadership of CPD is meeting to create a plan for moving forward. And during this process, each of the ERA recommendations will be reviewed and assessed for feasibility. And once that plan is developed, the CPD will present it to the Committee on Public Safety and provide a lot more details moving forward and take any questions or comments. So In closing this brief update, the CPD is grounded in a philosophy of evidence-based learning. And as such, we look forward to discovering ways that this recent assessment can refine our operational approaches and community service.
And it may be helpful, I might ask you to repeat what we did back on November the 14th. But there were some highlights, I think, of the recommendation that CPD can implement now without necessarily public input. Would you agree with me on that? Or do you think that everything needs to be vetted first with public input? Heather's shaking her head behind
Yeah,
you.
I mean,
so-
I would agree that we certainly need to assess all the recommendations with CPD staff and also having heard community feedback too. The recommendations are broad. There are some that require training, like some that are asking for additional training, some that are asking for additional details on how to present data, some that require collaboration with the community and outside parties. So I think that it's important that we make sure that we receive feedback from all those parties before determining an action plan.
Okay.
And one thing I'll add to, Chairman, is they are in the process of scheduling the community presentation portion of that. We haven't got to that stage yet, and I'm pretty sure we'll get a lot of feedback during that session. That is with our advisory group and whoever other community organizations that they collaborate, and that will take lead with Dr. Kale, initiating that presentation or that date.
Yes, we're hoping to have that done in January. So we are not waiting. We're going to have to get past the holiday season, but we need to have enough time to secure a proper location that can be easily accessible and also promote the meeting. We don't want to have a meeting that no one knows about.
Let me make sure I'm following you in your timeline. So you're going to engage our primary, I hate to say primary stakeholders, but the two organizations, CPAC and the HARC first.
Yeah.
That's through Dr. Kale. That's the last piece of this whole assessment is that presentation. And CPAC is our Citizens Advisory Group.
Right.
They take lead. And I think the suggestion also included HARC with that presentation from us.
So CPD would engage them first as to getting feedback from them first before you went out to the public and had these public engagement meetings. I'm just trying to get a sort of a chronology, I guess, set up.
Let me offer a brief clarification. So the engagement would be to help us promote the community meeting.
That's
Correct. And then the CPAC does have on its upcoming meeting on Thursday, we'll have some discussions related to the high level findings of the ERA report. And we will be reporting out to them as we are here regarding our plans for the meeting. And as we finalize those details, we hope that the members of both those groups that have substantial connections in the community can help put the word out for us about the community meeting where everyone is welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Jill and Chief, for the report, albeit brief, but I think appropriate. And I would just like to add a comment. I mean, the whole purpose of this meeting, as I understand it, was to stay focused on what we do going forward, and that centers around these recommendations. I see in the report and reviewed 13 CNA recommendations from the original audit that the assessment team highlighted, presumably that they still need some work. And then their own 24 recommendations. And I'm betting that when the department completely reviews these 13 and 24, you might think of a couple more that you come up with on your own. It seems to me one of the areas that from the original CNA, from the original audit that have been highlighted here, or just our own communications with CPAC and with the public. And so I feel like it's important, Chief and Jill, when you have the public meeting to try, I mean, I know you'll give a review of the whole thing, but try to focus on the recommendations going forward and make sure we get, community input and feedback on what those recommendations are. I think clearly the department, good faith, full intent, to keep hope and progress alive and going, meaning fulfilling the intent of where we started with the audit in the first place. And so focusing on those recommendations is number one, but number two, making sure we have some engagement and feedback from the community as to what the priorities are on those, and it just get some buy-in rather than just showing up and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's more like, here's what's recommended. Let us hear from you. Let us hear your recommendations when you have the public input, and I'd try to do it robustly in addition to an in-person meeting. I mean, make sure that we have an online presence and ability to get feedback from Facebook and social media and have a phone number they can call. I mean, just give people some options as to how they can get the information and how they can get it back to you. That would be my thought, but I feel confident that the intent and good faith of the department is to find the best practices, best recommendations going forward, and keeping progress alive. Thank you.
I don't really have anything other than to say, thank you for your leadership on this, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership, and Chief Walker and Dr. Edson and Heather Malloy. Just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done and that you're going to continue to do. It's very much appreciated. I think we've done some good work here, so thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, may I just add? And couldn't agree more with what the mayor is saying. This has not been a check the box type of platform. We've bought into this entire, assessment from at least the time I've been here over my position and since 2019. So moving forward, we will continue to do best practices. That's what we're built on. And we will still engage the community and solicit the community to get engaged with this process. So I just want to make that crystal clear. This is not a check the box type initiative for CPD. We are pretty much committed to doing what's best for our entire community, not segments of the community, the entire community. And we've always been about that. So you still have my word on that. So thank you.
We don't have any other person involved. They have not called in, or they're not on Zoom, anything like that. All right, so we do have two members of the public with us today, and I'm going to ask Mr. Harris, do you have any comments or you wish to share with us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm really happy that we're at this point where we have the report. Remind the members of the committee and the mayor and the chief, when the initial report was done, it was just at the point that Chief Reynolds was transitioning in. And I think his comments about the report was that it's
Would other members of the public come on this side of us? Yeah, if you don't mind, so we can just, we'll let you use the microphone too, if you don't mind. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry to mean to interrupt you, but you got the guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That the recommendations really helped him as he was thinking through the overall enhancement, efficiency, and effectiveness. The report spoke to training, recruitment, and procedures, policy procedures. And during that phase, we discovered in looking back that there had been policies and procedures that had not been reviewed for a very long time. I think Chief, excuse me, our incoming chief has again, a report that can help frame and outline a report, a course of action. But I do think that it's important for this committee to play a more aggressive role in those discussions. I think that the department is committed to evidence-based and data-driven decision-making, and probably is committed to kind of results oriented accountability. So that if they outline a series of, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to compare what we do to what other folks are doing, and then answer the question, who's better off for it? And the who's better off for it is the entire community. The folks who are concerned with commercial property, folks who are concerned with residential, and in my conversations with the chief, Charleston is a lot of different communities, and policing and law enforcement take sort of different perspective in each of those. The report points out, I think, importantly, that the information about what the department is doing is not readily accessible. Good news is not disseminated, so people will deal with their experiences, if you will. If I had a car accident and it took 20 minutes for a police officer to show up to take the report, that's my response, okay? If on the other hand, I'm trying to have a parking ticket downtown, that's my response. The general information about how the police deploys its activities, data that they collect, and should be in the public domain. I'll use the short summary as an example. If we had the resources, it should pop up as the first thing that people see, not have to go through the multiple layers. That's just as an example because it would show how important things are. I think there are a number of recommendations in the report that warrant immediate action and not necessary conversation. I think there are a couple of identified situations where there are racial disparities, I think in hit rates, for example, in terms of stopping and getting data, where the report asks the department to take a look at what's happening, all right, and perhaps review their training. I think those kinds of things, I'm sure that the chief will be jumping on and not waiting until there's public discussion about that. And I guess finally, well, not finally, two things. In terms of the community engagement, the report is roundly critical of CPAC for its lack of citizen participation. Actually, the members who are appointed by the mayor and council, we've had trouble having folks attend the meetings on a regular basis. Therefore, we're not able to do the subcommittees that are suggested here in particular about motor vehicle and use of force. And then the idea of how we start is how we finish, all right? Well, how we start is an indication. So the planning for this upcoming meeting in January should be underway now. And I believe that there should be more engagement with CPAC and HARC, Cajun, and perhaps other organizations in terms of giving input to the development of this plan in terms of dates in January, locations, and the like, and the format. I think the report suggests that the public thinks that CPAC's a rubber stamp. It's not independent. I think we have an opportunity in this situation to demonstrate the relationship that the chief and the department wants with CPAC as an entity. And then as the report suggests that we need to broaden, change how citizen participation is done as it relates to policing. All right, the council should take that up. But I'm urging that we really at this point, this next community participation reporting should be the beginning of an ongoing conversation. And we should, frankly, and I know having talked to Paul as chair of CPAC, and as co-chair of HARC, we are prepared to sit and meet with you now as you're having those discussions to help develop that. And I would urge the mayor and the committee to endorse that so that the plan that's presented, all right, is one that's a combined plan, so that when we get together on Thursday, the two meetings are Thursday back to back, as a matter of fact, that we're talking substantively about the format, who's presenting, and the kind of feedback that we want. I think we're in a good place. All we have to do is roll up our sleeves and do some work. The other one thing I know, is the council doing the budget on the 19th?
The budget is,
Done?
well, one more vote. The last vote. Yeah, on the 19th.
All right, so in the report, okay, there are a number of suggestions that perhaps have fiscal implications. One, for example, I mentioned it may already be covered. The department has secured, is it a problem-oriented policing grant? That will allow the department to enhance its data collection and the like. Some of the recommendations in the report speak to how the data is collected and how it's disseminated. That's an example of something that I hope is adequately funded. There's also discussion about the need for additional public-facing communication. Don't know whether or not either in citizens outreach component of the budget or the department's budget, whether or not any of the recommendations warrant perhaps revisiting that. And that might be later on a budget amendment, but I am, as an old city business administrator and department director, always aware of the fact that budgets where dollars are allocated can make a difference in enabling the department to achieve what it is that we'd like to see them do.
Thank you, sir. I don't think we had, I wanted you to have a little more leeway than I normally would give for the public, but I appreciate the 2 points that you made out here. Madam Clerk, did anybody else sign up for public comment? Okay. Any comments? Okay.
This is Suzanne Hardy. I had sent a note to you, to a couple of folks, with our.
I'm sorry,
Susan
Suzanne.
from Cajun.
Oh, Suzanne, Ms. Hardy? You still with us? Oh, that's Rick. Rick could just walk across the hall.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Sorry, I am driving, so I'm trying to be careful here. I heard just the end of Jerry's comments, and I had sent something in writing that I think Jerry probably covered all of that. But if you had a chance to read those, or if someone had read those out loud, that would suffice for my comments. I don't want to try and cover those while I'm driving, unfortunately.
I'll make sure that we can just make that part of the record, and that probably be the
Thank
easiest
you.
way of doing that. And then I think that went to Chief Walker as well. I'm pretty sure it did. So if it hasn't, I'll make sure.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not send it to him.
I'll make sure he gets a copy of it.
Thank you. That was an
Yes.
oversight by me. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Oh, yeah, right. I'm making a note to myself now. Okay, yes, sir.
Yes.
And please make sure we identify ourselves if we don't mind, sir.
Yes, my name is Marcus McDonald, lead organizer of Charleston Black Lives Matter. And my comment is that there's been conversations about community outreach throughout this process. And we have the data as far as the people who have a lot of unfortunate and disturbing altercations with the police are often people who look like me in the age group of 18 to 35, who get Black predominantly, who get pulled over. And I think being intentional about outreaching those people and being where those people are at is important, because I was witness to a lot of the outreach that was going on with this process, and it was not diverse in that way. And specifically diverse in the way that brings people up who are disproportionately targeted by the police, which is, again, young people, and young people do need to be the target of this conversation and brought into it, because not all the times we have ample time to come to meetings in the middle of the day because we're working, trying to make the start of our careers happen. So I just want to say that, just be intentional about your outreach moving forward. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So the comment I will make, and I think that the 2 points that you made, Jerry, is critical. One is making sure that CPAC is engaged, and I know the chief will welcome that. But also, I've heard this comments before about getting the forum, having enough people show up for the CPAC meetings and those representatives. So maybe one of the comments or recommendations may be, should we reconstitute the membership on that? I mean, do we need to have, we all appoint, refresh my memory, Mr. Mayor, I think we all appoint one, and then you have one appointment as well as mayor. So actually,
Yeah, and I recently appointed, asked for y'all's approval on a couple
Yeah.
of appointments, one at the last meeting. I think I had one last week as well. So we've been playing catch up, but there were a number of council members who have not made their appointments recently.
and I thought, didn't we talk about some change to that ordinance so that if a council member is not going to, we give them an opportunity to do that, and if they don't, they kind of default back to the mayor to do that. So
That's correct.
yeah, so I guess for membership purposes, just making sure we got folks who want to serve on this committee, and maybe thinking about reducing the number of membership on that, and so that you start having these forums. I don't know the answer to that question, but I know that's particularly with Chief Reynolds. He had commented about the problem of getting a quorum together. So if there's a way of addressing that, I don't know if that's an answer we can give today, but it certainly would make it a lot better. Have a smaller but much more engaged CPAC membership than one that's too broad and not engaged. I think the community would rather have that. That's engaged. And the other comment that you said, and I think this is critically important, that this committee needs to be involved in every aspect of this. And I think the chief has been very responsive to me. Chief Reynolds was very responsive to me and to this committee. And I think that's a challenge to making sure that we are doing that. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have this meeting today, particularly just to make sure as as January comes around, that we're not missing a beat on this thing, that y'all have got the plans that we're working on, and that this public engagement aspect is on your agenda and on your calendar, and that we'll follow through with it. I think that's critically important. Yes, sir.
And that's one of the challenges, the engagement piece. And it's one that Jerry hears a lot from me with CPAC. If you're appointed to these committees, you're not it's not for resume, and it's not for, a party of one. When we talk about engagement, it's some of their responsibility to go out and solicit the people that they're representing to partake in these upcoming forums and these different initiatives that we're pushing out. So, it's that can't be driven by the police department. That has to be driven by the community. And a large part of that is our CPAC, and it is our HARC, and it is our other organizations. So if you're not bringing them to the table, we lack in that area, and we miss a whole segment of people that is playing catch up and saying, I didn't know. So I still challenge, to get engaged. And if you're on these committees, you have to get in your community and in your segments and get the people to the table. So.
Yes, and I would follow up with is that if I make an appointment to that and that appointee's not participating, get on me about, hey, Shade, your guys or your ladies not showing up. And so we know in advance of what's taking place with that. I think that helps as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll try, Mr. Chair. One, Chairman Tamarino has been communicating with each of the council members who have failed, and the recommendation for the appointments have been coming to the mayor under the change guidelines. And the other point is, Chief, participating in planning the party is important in terms of community engagement as inviting people to the party. So I'm asking that we do better on that end, and hopefully we'll do better on the outreach side.
I'm sorry, I didn't use my microphone. So I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about on this particular item. I will mention that the mayor and I were present on Friday, December the 8th, and we had 37, what was it? The new recruits that were sworn in with the fire department, 39, which is one of the largest classes I think they had. And it was a wonderful ceremony. We had a lot more South Carolinians, I think, Mayor, if I remember Chief Correa saying so, which is good to have more home brewed members on our fire service. So it was a wonderful ceremony. Appreciate what the training staff was able to accomplish and have that class in force. I participated in the reindeer run Saturday morning, and there was I haven't followed up on this, but there was a person who I think suffered a heart attack, and it was just amazing to me. I've watched this happen on other service calls. 2 or 3 fire trucks responded, EMS responded, the police were out there in full force out there, and just watching our first responders come to an aid of another individual who's in distress is just remarkable. In the amount of coordination, they all knew what they were doing. They all were working in concert with one another. It's just you hate to see that happening, but it's reassuring to see that our police and fire departments and the county EMS they were on top of that. And your crew was out there, Chief Walker, and I was engaging with some of them, but I don't know what happened to the fellow, but I just hope everything ended up okay. But it was just, it's good to see that level of cooperation and response from our first responders. So thank you all for that good work. That being said, I appreciate the opportunity of serving on this committee for the past 8 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for my appointment as on the committee, and chairing it for 6 of 8 years. I think I did that, and appreciate all the fine work from all of y'all, from the citizens who've been engaged in a lot of these processes, particularly with the CNA report that we had in the contract. With that being said, and there being no further business, we are hereby adjourned. Thank you all very much.